Now it's time to utilize the SoundController workflow. I'm going to close out of the SoundController workflow. And before I proceed, I would want to introduce you guys to something new. Now, previously, we have used arguments to pass data in or out of a workflow. And the reason why we chose to use arguments is because we wanted this data to be used somewhere else in another workflow. Now introducing the UiPath global variable feature. With the global variable feature, you can create a variable and declare its scope as global. Global in the sense that whatever workflow you find yourself in within your project, this variable can be accessible. What does this do for us? This minimizes the use of arguments, but then you should only use global variables in very special scenarios, like the one we are about to find ourselves in. Here, we will be creating a global variable called GameSound, and it's going to be of the type system.media.soundPlayer object class. Let's hop into our studio without wasting so much time and create this variable. To create a global variable, I would go to Data Manager on my project. You can see that I have no workflow opened up here, but I am still within my project, which is the QuizBot. Now, I want to click on Variables and I want to click on New Global Variable. The variable name is going to be GameSound and the data type is going to be your system.media.soundPlayer. Just in case you can't find this data type, then you need to browse for types and select it from the menu. For now, I can see it here. I'm going to select system.media.soundPlayer. For default value, we don't need any default value, and I'm going to hit OK to create. Hit Ctrl S to save, and the global variable now exists over here. Next, I want to get my getPlayerRequest workflow open up. Now in my getPlayerRequest workflow, I would want to play the sound right after the form is open, and that is right after the show form activity. To do that, I'm going to call the SoundController workflow right after the show form. I hit import arguments and expand the arguments expression editor. Now let's bind these arguments. For in sound file path, I expand open expression in editor, and I want to set this to the file path. Remember, the background sound is coming from our sounds folder that can be found in our data folder. Essentially, the background sound exists within our project root directory. I hit save. And for the sound player class, open expression in editor, and I want to set this to the global variable, which is called GameSound. It appears as a property with the spanner icon. I select it and I hit save. And lastly, I would want to set the switch number. Now, if you recall, when we were building this workflow, if you want the sound to play in loops, you use switch number 0. So I set this to 0 and I am good. Hit save, save out of this, and Ctrl S to save. Next, I would love to stop the sound right after the player has hit the play button or the end button. I right click on the SoundController invoked workflow. I copy and I take it right after the close form. Right after the close form, I want to get this invoked. So I paste, and this time around in the arguments, I want to set this to 2. Remember, 2 is a switch number to stop a sound that is playing. Again, I also do not want to initialize the sound file, so I also want to set this to nothing, because at this point in time, the sound file is already playing, so there is no need to pass a sound file path. But what we want to do is stop the sound. So we pass in 2. I hit save Control S to save, and we are good. Okay, let's proceed to hit the debug. And I hit the debug while I am in my get player request workflow. Okay, it works perfectly. I'm gonna take the volume down a bit. When I provide my name, Jack, and I choose the number of questions to 4, and I hit select a question type and a difficulty, and I hit play, the sound stops. Quite interesting. It works as expected. I'm going to try it again one more time for the end button. I hit debug. And for the end button, I don't provide any values. I just hit end, and it also stops. Pretty impressive.